Chapter 126. On the 6th day after entering the dragon-seeking forest, they finally found a second fire-type spirit beast that was over 4,000 years old. It was a 4,200 years old flaming ironback bear. Roar! The flaming ironback bear stood at the bottom of the cliff and roared, but it did not initiate an attack. It was very smart and could sense that there was a very strong person in this group, Lin Muyu. It could not see through this person's strength. Master. Wei Chou was eager to give it a try and said, "Let us handle this spirit beast. We can't let you handle it yourself. Otherwise, what's the point of us coming here, right?" Lin Muyu could not help but smile. "Alright, you guys go, I'll hold the line. However, you guys must be careful. You can get hurt but you can't die. If you die, everything will be gone." "Yes, master, don't worry." Wei Chou called for 3 royal guards to attack together. Among them, Wei Chou was the strongest as a battle saint, while the other 3 were battle venerables, and battle venerables, respectively. Overall, they could challenge a 4,200 years old spirit beast, but it would be more dangerous. Therefore, 2 of the battle venerables carried their heavy shields and advanced cautiously. Wei Chou and the other battle saint pulled out their swords and summoned their martial souls, ready to fight with their lives at any time. "Go attack formation." Wei Chou let out a low roar. 2 royal guards carried their shields and rushed forward to cover him. The flaming ironback bear sensed the impending danger and roared furiously as it swatted out with its iron paw. Ping! The shield of one of the royal guards was knocked back. That thick and heavy shield actually had a deep impression of the bear's paw. Even the raging flames had swept past the mark, showing signs of melting. However, the ironback bear had also paid a price for this attack. Its shoulder had been heavily slashed by Wei Chou's sword, causing blood to spurt out. Roar! The ironback bear began to charge ferociously, directly pouncing on another shield-wielding royal guard to the ground. Brandishing its sharp claws, it continuously smashed the shield 3 or 4 times. The royal guard groaned in pain, already injured by the fierce flames. Lin Muyu quickly moved her palm to the hilt of her sword. The burning prairie sword was ready to be unsheathed at any moment. Boo! Wei Chou's heavy sword once again pierced through the iron-backed bear's thick, stony skin, directly piercing into its heart. The other royal guard's sword pierced into the iron-backed bear's mouth, causing blood to splatter out. Good heavens, none of the royal guards were easy to deal with. Their attacks were all too ruthless. However, they had still underestimated the iron-backed bear's vitality. With a furious roar, the iron-backed bear quickly unleashed a wave of raging flames, causing the 3 royal guards to continuously retreat. They were probably all injured, but only Wei Chou still stood in place with his sword in hand. With the fire centipede martial soul protecting him, he used the ability of the fire chi to block the iron-backed bear's raging flames. This skill was indeed rather useful. The iron-backed bear was completely unleashing its vitality to counterattack. After the raging flames had burned the surroundings into ashes, its own strength had also instantly dropped to rock bottom. In a flash, Wei Chou appeared in front of the iron-backed bear. He leaped up and swept his sword horizontally. Crack! The huge bear's head slowly slid down. Lin Muyu couldn't help but secretly cheer. Beautiful! A few minutes later, Wei Chou dug out a fresh fire spirit stone and said with a smile, "Madam, the mission to collect fire spirit stones has been completed. Our performance is not bad, right?" Lin Muyu cast an approving look at him. "The royal guards are indeed dragons among men, heh? Hee, madam is too kind." Wei Chou happily washed the iron-backed bear's spirit stone with the water in his water bag. He wasn't old, perhaps even younger than Lin Muyu. In fact, he was still a very childish fellow. However, as a member of the royal guards and a commoner's background, the pressure in his life was simply too great. The royal guards didn't keep idle people, so he had to improve his strength every day. Otherwise, he might be replaced by someone else one day. A group of royal guards happily skinned the iron-backed bear and took out its meat. After eating the bloodthirsty tiger's meat for several days, their mouths were all very picky. The bloodthirsty tiger's meat was too bitter and not very tasty. On the other hand, although the iron-backed bear's meat was coarse, it was very resistant to hunger. Many people in the army liked to eat bear meat to fill their stomachs, but the iron-backed bear was very rare. The people of the Spirit Fire Division carried bags of bear meat and hung them on the sides of the war horses. Lin Muyu mounted her horse and looked around. She discovered that everything here had withered. There wasn't a trace of greenery in the mountains. In just a few days the change from autumn to winter had been completed. Just as Wei Chou had said, winter seemed to have come especially early today. Lin Muyu rubbed her hands together and said, "Let's set off quickly. Where's our next destination?" Wei Chou unfurled the map and looked at it. He said, "Rubble Valley, located in the northwest corner of the dragon-seeking forest. There are rocks everywhere, so most of the spirit beasts living there have absorbed a lot of rock attribute spirit energy. We might be able to find a rock attribute spirit beast of sufficient age there. Moreover, if we look north of the Rubble Valley, we will reach the north of the dragon-seeking forest. It is said that a golden-scaled beast has appeared there." "And got it. Let's go." "Yes." Lin Muyu spurred the warhorse forward slowly. At this moment snowflakes suddenly floated in the air. He looked up in surprise and said, "It's snowing so soon," Wei Chou said with a smile. "It's definitely going to be a cold winter this year." The snow was getting heavier and heavier. Soon the ground of the forest was covered with a layer of frost. Lin Muyu was still riding through the mountains. Snowflakes fell on the shoulder armor of his pure white temple battle robe and did not melt for a long time. The weather was getting colder and colder, causing him to shiver uncontrollably. He turned to look in the direction of Luoyang City. Suddenly his heart skipped a beat and he couldn't help but say, "I wonder if it's snowing in Luoyang City." His longing seemed to be able to pass through thousands of miles of snow to reach his beloved. Wei Chou exhaled hot air and laughed as he said something that spoiled the mood. "Hey, I don't know if it's snowing in Luoyang City. I only know that it's snowing here. It's the season to defecate, melt snow and cook rice." Lin Muyu. If it weren't for her good temper, she would have ordered him to be executed on the spot. Thousands of miles of mountains and rivers were covered in snow. It was snowing heavily in Luoyang City. Large flakes of snow fell on the courtyards and waterside pavilions. The lake water had already frozen into ice. The outside of the Phoenix Perching Hall was already covered in white. The maids carried heaters back and forth while the imperial guards in white robes patrolled silently with their hands on the hilts of their swords. There were a total of 70 dragon guards in the Zetian Palace, and 20 of them were assigned to the Phoenix Perching Hall alone. It was clear how much importance Qin Jin placed on the little princess. The main doors of the Phoenix Perching Hall were open. The cold wind blew in continuously, causing the flames in the heaters to sway. A delicious and tender deer leg was being roasted on top of the heaters. An attendant was carefully shaking the venison and sprinkling seasonings on it. Meanwhile, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were sitting on either side of the heaters. The two of them looked at the falling snow together, as if their minds were no longer on the delicious food in front of them. "I wonder if it's snowing in the dragon-seeking forest," Qin Yin suddenly said. Tang Xiaoxi had wanted to say this a long time ago, but she was too embarrassed to say it. Hearing Qin Yin's words, she pouted and said, "I wonder if Mu brought a coat." Qin Yin giggled. "I wonder if Ayu knows that both of us are thinking about him." Tang Xiaoxi also laughed. "Xiao Yin, do you like Mu too?" "Yes." Qin Yin blushed. "But I can't say that it's that kind of like. What about you, Xiaoxi?" Tang Xiaoxi blinked and continued to look at the sea of snow outside. "I actually don't know what is like or what is love. I just feel that when Mu is by my side I am very happy. When he speaks I smile. No matter what he does I feel that he seems to glow." "Xiaoyin, does this count as liking?" Qin Yinxue moved her red lips and said, "I guess so. What about you?" Tang Xiaoxi sat closer and put her palm on Qin Yin's leg for warmth. She smiled and said, "How does Xiaoyin like Mu?" Qin Yin was startled. A trace of sadness flashed through her eyes. She lowered her head and said, "So what if I like him or not? I am the heir of the family. Who I will marry is already decided by the heavens. I have no right to talk about this." Tang Xiaoxi looked at her with some loneliness. She suddenly smiled and said, "Ai, poor thing." Qin Yin was amused by her and suddenly burst out laughing. "Xiaoxi, you are too mischievous." "I am not." The attendant at the side looked at the two peerless beauties talking about their best friend. However, he remained calm and did not act impulsively. He was calm because he knew that these two beauties were of noble status and were not people he could associate with. He was not impulsive because his lower body was no longer masculine. It had long been cut off, so he could not act impulsively at all. However, the servant still said, "Your Highness, Princess, this deer leg is already roasted. The General Lin Muyu you mentioned is now a centurion of the Eagle Guards. I heard that he was ordered to lead 50 men into the dragon-seeking forest to hunt for spiritual beasts, as well as the precious ingredients that the Zetian Palace needs for the winter. Perhaps the deer leg you ate was hunted by him? So don't waste the good times. Quickly eat more." Qin Yin glanced at the attendant and suddenly felt that this eunuch was quite good at chatting. In an instant she felt that this deer leg was glowing. She instantly blushed. Could this be what Tang Xiaoxi meant when she said that he would glow when he liked someone? As they ate the delicious roasted venison and drank the warm grape wine, Tang Xiaoxi suddenly looked up and said, "Oh right, Xiaoyin, how long has it been since you went to Sister Zhenxiang to learn the Guqin?" "It has been a long time," Qin Yin said. "Ever since the relationship between the Divine Cathedral and the Divine Marquis residence became tense, Sister Zhenxiang has not entered the palace, so I have not had the chance to learn from her. I am afraid that even if you could meet her, she would not have the time to learn from you." "Why?" Qin Yin's beautiful eyes widened. Tang Xiaoxi giggled. "Sister Zhenxiang is now deeply in love with Lord Chu Huayin." "Ah?" Qin Yin opened her small mouth and smiled. "Lord Chu Huayin? Isn't that you Huayin's sworn brother?" "Yes." Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said, "That is why I did not go to look for her. How can I disturb her happiness, right?" Qin Yin giggled. "That is true, but I do not know when you Huayin will return." "Yes." Chapter 127. On the 11th day of entering the dragon-seeking forest, the team slowly entered the Valley of Rubble. The snow was still falling as if it would never end. Rustle, rustle. Lin Muyu brushed the snow off her shoulders and pulled on the reins to speed up the warhorse. Wei Chou followed closely and said, "My lord, we must be careful. The snow has covered everything in the mountain, and many stone attribute spirit beasts are also buried under the snow. If we're not careful, we might step into a trap." "Got it." Lin Muyu wasn't worried at all because he had the spirit pulse art. When his spiritual sense pulsed, almost any energy fluctuation within 3 miles couldn't escape his senses. This was something even a sacred realm expert couldn't compare to. Suddenly he looked towards the north and said, "Be careful, there's a spirit beast there and it's very strong." Yes. Everyone was solemn. After turning around a mountain, they saw a giant elephant standing at the foot of a rocky peak. It was about 5 meters tall and had a huge body. It didn't move at all, and the surface of its skin was almost the same as the stone. "It's a stone elephant," Wei Chou said in a low voice. "A 4,800-year-old stone elephant, my lord, seems to be hibernating. Do we need to kill it? It shouldn't be difficult to kill it now. We're too lucky to encounter a hibernating high-rank spirit beast so easily." Oh. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "Spirit beasts are also living creatures. When we don't need them, let's not kill too much. Let's continue forward. We need to kill rock-type spirit beasts above 5,000 years old." "Yes, my lord." The group of Imperial Guards couldn't help but look at Lin Muyu with more respect. In this shattered cauldron continent, the strong were respected, and the weak had no dignity to speak of. In their opinion, the fate of the weak was to be fish on the chopping block. Lin Muyu was the strongest among this group of Imperial Guards, yet she still had kindness in her heart. They didn't dare to laugh at Lin Muyu because Lin Muyu was much stronger than them. By noon, they had traversed half of the Valley of Rubble and encountered more than a dozen spirit beasts. However, none of them were of the stone element and above 5,000 years old. Lin Muyu was not in a hurry. She sat on the horseback and cultivated the dragon forging bone remnant scroll, not wasting any time. At this moment his spiritual sense suddenly fluctuated. It had appeared. He suddenly raised his head and said with a smile, "The thing we're looking for is here, and it came to us by itself." "What?" Wei Chou and the others were shocked. "Defensive formation, hurry up!" Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. The group dismounted one after another and protected the warhorses in the center. The Imperial Guards raised their shields and formed a circle. In less than 2 minutes, the howls of wolves could be heard from afar. At least 20+ huge gray wolves charged down from the mountain ridge in the distance. From afar they looked very imposing. Wei Chou narrowed his eyes and said, "It's the rock spot wolves. At least 20 of them. My God, what kind of luck do we have? Not only are the rock spot wolves fast and agile, their fur is also very thick. They're even harder to deal with than the swift wolves. With so many rock spot wolves, all of a sudden we're in danger. Lin Muyu said, form a circle. I'll charge out and kill them. Don't move, understand? Yes. He proudly raised his sword and walked to the outer perimeter of the defensive circle. With a light lift of his palm, he summoned the Wall of the Gourd, Mystic Tortoise Shell, and Wall of Dragon Scale. The wolves in the distance were getting closer and closer. Every single one of them had a pattern of gold and silver lines on their foreheads, representing their lifespan and strength. The largest wolf among them actually had 5 gold lines and 2 silver lines. It was a 5,200-year-old stone wolf. It was a pity that he was the Wolf King and he had brought more than 10 rock spot wolves with him. If they weren't careful, they might end up being hunted. Wei Chou gripped his sword tightly and shouted, "My lord, be careful. There's a 5,200 years old Wolf King and a 3,900 years old Wolf King. The rest are all below 3,000 years old. Careful." Yes. Lin Muyu raised her voice and said, "I'll block them. You guys use your bows and arrows to kill them. Kill the younger rock spot wolves first. If they pounce and bite, you must defend yourself. Don't let the warhorses get attacked. Otherwise we'll be in trouble." Yes. As they spoke, the Wolf King had already arrived. Lin Muyu rushed forward without hesitation and activated Thunderous Frenzy. Crack. The burning prairie sword directly collided with the layer of spiritual energy on the Wolf King's abdomen, causing fragments to fly everywhere. However, it was unable to harm the Wolf King. On the contrary, the Wolf King pounced with all its might and directly hit the wall of the gourd. With a ping sound, the black tortoise shell was already covered in cracks. Spirit beasts over 5,000 years old were indeed powerful. Spirit beasts under 5,000 years old were completely incomparable. Sha. Her battle boots stepped on the snow. Lin Muyu directly used the exquisite butterfly steps. A few footprints crisscrossed on the snow as she dodged the Wolf King's next attack. Then she raised her fist. Her fist was covered with a blood-colored cyclone. She directly punched the 3,900 years old rock spot wolf. Chaos of all life. The punch directly shattered the rock spot wolf's spirit energy layer and shattered its ribs. With a loud howl, the 3,900 years old rock spot wolf was seriously injured by the first dazzle. It lay on the snow and struggled to get up, but it was already too late. Lin Muyu's intention was very simple. She wanted to use her strength to restrain the Wolf King and then quickly finish off the second 3,900 years old rock spot wolf. Clearly, she had achieved her goal. The Wolf King roared and pounced over again. At the same time, it summoned the other 3 over 2,000 years old rock spot wolves to surround and attack her, forming a 4 versus 1 attack. Lin Muyu gripped the burning prairie sword tightly. The walls of the bottle gourd covered her body to protect herself. Sharp arrows whizzed past her, killing or injuring the rock spot wolves one after another. Of course, there were even more rock spot wolves that pounced on the shield wall and opened their mouths to bite the shoulder armor of the royal guards. The sound of howling and tearing filled the air. Swoosh. The long sword swept horizontally and directly chopped off the front leg of a 2,100-year-old rock spot wolf. However, in this fleeting moment, the mystic tortoise shell had already been torn apart. What followed next was the dragon scale wall. The Wolf King crazily bit down with its sharp claws and ferocious mouth. In the blink of an eye, even the dragon scale wall was torn apart. At this moment, Lin Muyu had also finished off the other 3 rock spot wolves. He suddenly turned around and smelled a fishy smell. The Wolf King's claws had landed on his chest and a mighty force pushed him to the snow. Oh no! He was secretly shocked and hurriedly raised his left arm. The effects of the stone skin potion were still in effect, and he could only hope that he could withstand the attack. Pooh! Fresh blood splattered. He had overestimated the effects of the potion, and his left wrist was directly penetrated by the Wolf King's fangs. A heart-wrenching pain spread through his body. He was already injured. An indescribable anger surged in his heart. This beast actually dared to be so impudent? A vigorous force instantly surged into his right arm. In the next moment, his fist was surrounded by the life constellation. The mighty fist directly landed on the Wolf King's neck. 3 luminaries calamity. Kacha! The Wolf King howled in pain as it retreated. Its neck had been struck by the third luminaries, and it seemed to have fractured its bones. However, the Wolf King's vitality was too tenacious. It staggered back to its feet and looked like it was going to continue pouncing. Lin Muyu did not give in at all. She raised her left fist that was dripping with blood and threw another mighty punch. One luminary's calamity. Bang! After a heavy blow, the Wolf King became obedient this time. It howled in pain and retreated. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. Lin Muyu lightly raised her palm, and numerous gourd vines rose from the snow, binding the Wolf King tightly. Flames condensed in her palm, and she used the fire sword to activate the dragon flame spiral break. Pooh! Fresh blood splattered everywhere. Almost half of the Wolf King's body was blasted into pieces. No matter how strong its vitality was, it could no longer struggle. With a miserable howl, its soul passed away. Looking behind him, the remaining rock spot wolves had almost all been killed by Wei Chou and the other royal guards. There were at least 40 rock spot wolf corpses lying outside the defensive perimeter. It was more than what he had imagined. It was practically a wolf family. "My lady, are you injured?" Wei Chou hurriedly said. Lin Muyu had already taken out some healing medicine and poured it onto the wound on her wrist. She tore off a piece of white cloth from the end of her battle robe and wrapped it up. She slowly sat down on a snow-covered rock and said while breathing heavily, "I'm fine. How are everyone's injuries?" Wei Chou said, "One seriously injured and 7 lightly injured. These rock spot wolves are too hateful, they are everywhere." Lin Muyu walked over to take a look and found that a royal guard's shoulder was almost torn apart by the rock spot wolves. His armor was completely shattered. She took out 2 bottles of healing medicine and poured it on him. Then she personally helped him bandage his wound. The royal guard was so touched that he was about to burst into tears. "My lady, Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, "Stop being a busybody. If it was me, you would have done the same to me." Everyone couldn't help but laugh. The originally tense feeling of life and death had been washed away by this young general's words. Not long after, Wei Chou came over with a thick spirit stone and said with a smile, "My lady, this is a 5,200-year-old rock spot wolf spirit stone. We have already completed more than half of the mission. We only need to find a 5,000-year-old golden-scaled beast and kill a fat boar to complete this winter's mission. There are still 20 days until the winter sacrifice ceremony, so there should be more than enough time." "No, we don't actually have much time." Lin Muyu took the spirit stone and stuffed it into the bag on the horse's back. She said, "If we kill a wild boar, it won't be easy to transport that 1,000-kilogram big fellow back. We can't decompose the carcass either, so we should hurry. Immediately set up camp and rest here for a while. After eating lunch, we will continue to the north to find the golden-scaled beast." "Yes, my lady." Wei Chou's face was full of joy. He had probably never carried out a mission so smoothly before, nor had he been so passionate. Killing a bloodthirsty tiger in the deadwood forest, fighting a pack of wolves in the stony valley, these deeds were enough for the taverns of the imperial capital to brag for a lifetime. In the afternoon, after eating and drinking to her heart's content, Lin Muyu turned over and mounted the horse. She pulled up the white temple cloak behind her head to cover her short hair, brought her injured left arm closer to her chest for warmth, and held the reins with her right hand. The next spirit stone was for the beautiful princess. Chapter 128. Snow was flying everywhere and the wind was like a knife scraping on the skin. The temperature in the north of the dragon forest was completely different from that in the south. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu and the others had been in the dragon forest for half a month, but they still hadn't found the golden-scaled beast. "Master." Wei Chou took a breath and warmed his palms. He looked up at the falling snow and said, "At this rate, the snow will seal the mountain in a week at most. If we can't find the golden-scaled beast, I'm afraid we can only spend the winter in the dragon forest." "Yes." Lin Muyu continued to ride forward and didn't respond to Wei Chou's words. Instead, she turned around and asked, "Is there enough fodder for the horses?" An imperial guard said respectfully, "There's enough for 3 days." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Continue the march." It was almost dusk and the snow still didn't stop. The team slowly entered a gourd-shaped valley. Wei Chou couldn't help but smile. Master, your martial soul is the green gourd. This is the gourd valley on the map. Maybe it's our blessed land. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. The spiritual pulse technique continued to extend to its maximum range. Not long after entering the valley, there was indeed a trace of energy pulsation, and this time the range of the fluctuation was very strong. Lin Muyu immediately raised her palm and said, "Be careful, there's a spirit beast approaching quickly. It's very strong. Be on guard." Everyone turned over and dismounted, holding their swords and sabers. Many people pulled their longbows with trembling hands. Maybe it was because the weather was too cold, but the bow made a squeaking sound when it was pulled taut, as if it would break at any time. "It's coming." Wei Chou's face turned cold. It was when night fell. There was a beast roar from the other side of the valley, followed by a golden light soaring into the sky. This made Wei Chou couldn't help but show a happy expression. "Master, it's the golden-scaled beast." The golden-scaled beast was an exotic beast that could devour and release light energy. It was also one of the rare light-type spirit beasts. Lin Muyu remained seated on her warhorse with her sword in hand. He did not move at all. As far as her eyes could see, a ferocious beast covered in golden scales trod through the snow. Its head was like that of a ferocious tiger, but its body was like that of a cheetah. It let out a low growl as its blood-red eyes stared fixedly at Lin Muyu and the others. 4 golden and 8 silver lines flashed on its head. "Damn it!" Wei Chou couldn't help but curse. "It's actually a 4,800-year-old golden-scaled beast. My lord, are we going to kill it?" "I'm afraid we have no choice but to kill them." Lin Muyu dismounted and said, "This golden-scaled beast is here to hunt. Even if we don't kill it, it will attack us. Don't be polite, shoot." "Yes." A group of Imperial Guards shot arrows one after another. The arrows of the Imperial Guards could be said to be fast, accurate, and ruthless. Nearly half of the arrows hit the body of the golden-scaled beast. However, the golden light flickered endlessly. The skin of the golden-scaled beast seemed to have some kind of shield blocking all the arrows. "Can't shoot through, what should we do?" Wei Chou was stunned. "Continue to shoot." Lin Muyu said lightly, "The light energy condensed shield needs to consume energy. Continue to shoot, arrows will consume its energy. Don't stop until it takes the initiative to pounce." "Yes." The arrows continued. Lin Muyu also touched her waist, and the magic noise blade was already in her hand. She quickly threw it out, and the magic noise blade returned to attack the golden-scaled beast. Not only that, Lin Muyu opened her palm and lightning flashed. She controlled the Liaoyuan sword with the thunder sword to attack. Bang! When the magic noise blade was agitated, the golden-scaled beast finally roared and suddenly rushed over. It raised its claws, which condensed into a golden light. The light's spiritual power was endless, and with a whoosh, a light energy claw attack was launched. Lin Muyu hurriedly took a few steps in front of Wei Chou and others. She opened her palm, and the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were quickly blessed. The wall of the gourd was also opened to the maximum, pushing the snow on the ground forward. With a loud noise, it actually resisted the attack of the golden-scaled beast. However, from the strength of the attack, the golden-scaled beast did consume most of its strength in defense. Roar! The golden-scaled beast opened its bloody mouth and pounced on the culprit. Its mouth spewed out a scorching and stinky breath. Its throat began to swell, and rays of golden light penetrated through its fur. The light energy in its mouth became more and more intense, as if it was about to spit out a mouthful of light explosive energy. Lin Muyu naturally wouldn't let it succeed. In a flash, she arrived below the golden-scaled beast. She crossed her right arm, and blood-colored energy lingered. Chaos of all lives. Ping. A heavy punch landed on the lower jaw of the golden-scaled beast, abruptly killing its light attack. At the same time, he spun his body and grabbed the burning prairie sword. The real dragon primary fire was concentrated and lingered around the long sword. With the fastest speed, the sword pierced through the throat of the golden-scaled beast with a puff sound. The golden-scaled beast fell down softly amidst the screams. Wei Chou was stunned. Obviously, he didn't think that Lin Muyu would be able to deal with a 4,800-year-old golden-scaled beast so quickly. The rest of the Imperial Guards also looked at the new centurion, with unspeakable awe and joy in their eyes. "Okay, take out the spirit stones," Lin Muyu said lightly. "Yes." Wei Chou took out a dagger, walked forward and lifted the head of the golden-scaled beast, dug out the spirit stones and said with a smile, "Madam, the fur of the golden-scaled beast is a good material. How about, we spend a little time and peel off the fur of this golden-scaled beast?" "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Hurry up, the second golden-scaled beast will be here soon." "Oh, but..." Wei Chou was shocked. Lin Muyu smiled slightly and said, "Because the living habit of the golden-scaled beast is to live with a male and a female. The one in front of us is a female beast. If it forages for too long and doesn't return, the male beast will naturally follow its scent and find it. The male beast must be very strong, so you have to be quick. Don't let the male beast see you peel off the skin of the female beast. That would be too inhumane." Wei Chou couldn't help but laugh. "Yes, madam. I will speed up." So Wei Chou peeled off the skin, and another imperial guard sat on the side and began to refine the beast spirit of the 4,800-year-old golden-scaled beast. Although he practiced the law of fire and the golden-scaled beast practiced the law of light, he was not picky about food. The spirit of a beast with a long lifespan was very rare, and it was even more difficult to find one that matched the attribute. So even such a beast spirit made him ecstatic. Lin Muyu then ordered to set up camp. There was snow everywhere in the Gourd Valley, so they could only sweep away the snow and set up tents on the slightly dry grass. The soldiers of the Spirit Fire Department found some dead wood and set up 7 or 8 bonfires. They took out the bear meat from the horses and began to boil the meat soup. Not long after, the smell of meat overflowed. "Goo-goo," Lin Muyu's stomach growled and his internal organs were about to rebel, but he knew that there might be no time to eat. In fact, this was indeed the case. Not long after, the pulse of the spirit pulse technique in the distance became more and more intense, and a force that was almost about to crush him was quickly approaching. He quickly pulled out the blade and whispered, "It's coming, come with me." Everyone was solemn. They dropped the meat soup, blankets and other things, picked up their spears, swords and other things and followed Lin Muyu to the side of the hillside. Sha. Stepping on the snow and scuttling up the hillside, Lin Muyu brought everyone to the hillside, only revealing their eyes to observe the situation in the distance. After a few minutes, a low roar echoed in the cold wind, and a golden light shot through the curtain of snow. An even larger golden-scaled beast appeared on the snowy ground. There were a total of 6 golden veined patterns and 2 silver veined patterns on its head. It was a 6,200-year-old spirit beast. Perhaps because of its huge size, its palms sank deep into the snow. Its eyes were a little dim, and it looked at the corpse of the mother beast in the distance, and let out a mournful howl. Lin Muyu frowned and didn't say anything. At this moment he actually felt that he was committing a crime. Wild beasts also had spirituality and he killed the mother beast just like that. Was it a little cruel? Wei Chou didn't have such a kind heart. He squinted his eyes and said, "My lord, when the sacrifice for the mother beast is halfway through, we kill it?" "No." Lin Muyu raised her hand to stop him and said, "Let me go first, don't be impulsive. This is a 6,200-year-old golden-scaled beast, and its strength is far greater than the ones we met before. Don't act rashly. This golden-scaled beast's light energy can kill you in an instant. I don't want anyone to die on their first mission after becoming an eagle guard." Wei Chou nodded, "Then be careful, my lord. And don't worry." At this moment the mother beast let out another mournful howl. After sniffing the corpse of the mother beast, it immediately began to growl in a low voice. Its steel needle-like beard trembled up and down, but it cast its gaze on the warhorse at the edge of the tent not far away. In the next moment, it had already pounced over with a low growl, clearly intending to kill the warhorse to vent its anger. Whoosh! The burning prairie sword, wrapped in purple lightning, pierced through the curtain of snow and went straight to the neck of the golden-scaled beast. With a bang, the golden light scattered, and only a part of the golden-scaled beast's light energy shield was blasted off. Lin Muyu jumped up directly from the hillside, grabbed the rebounded burning prairie sword with both hands in the air, and a strong demonic power poured into the long sword. She slashed the sword down in the air. This attack combined the 7 luminaries' Xian energy with the sword technique. 2 luminaries' demonic dance. The blade fell directly on the forehead of the golden-scaled beast, but a strong recoil quickly spread out, and he was shaken away with the sword. It can actually condense battle armor. More be careful. Wei Chou shouted anxiously on the hillside. Lin Muyu slid far away on the snow and looked at it from a distance. Sure enough, the skin of this golden-scaled beast was wrapped in a faint white luster, like armor protecting it. Was this the battle armor that Wei Chou mentioned? Transforming qi into battle armor, this was the ability of the second heaven of the heaven realm. How could this golden-scaled beast also condense battle armor? Chapter 129. The age of the spirit beast was not the final criterion of strength. It was just one of them. For example, the golden-scaled beast in front of her. Although it was 6,200 years old, it seemed that its spirituality was far stronger than that of the mother beast just now. Otherwise, it would not have comprehended the battle chi armor ability. Rustle. Stepping on the snow, the golden-scaled beast's blood-colored eyes stared at Lin Muyu and slowly walked around him. This was the unique attack ability of beasts, looking for opportunities. Lin Muyu's heart was a little cold. After all, she still underestimated the ability of a 6,200 years old spirit beast. This golden-scaled beast did not seem to be something that she could resist alone. The golden-scaled beast's whole body was enshrouded in the energy of battle chi armor. It rushed forward and actually stood up. Its two palms broke the wind and made 3 attacks in an instant. Bang bang bang, shaking the wall of the gourd. Almost in an instant the black tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall were smashed together. The next moment the golden light turned into a claw and swept across. Lin Muyu leaned down to the limit, only to feel a cold wind on the top of her head, fluttering a handful of hair. Terrible, she was almost killed by this golden-scaled beast. With a slide of her feet, she flashed to the right side of the spirit beast with flexible movements. With a shake of the long sword, she quickly slashed several times, but still could not break the battle armor of the golden-scaled beast. She immediately had a very bad feeling in her heart. Not surprisingly, a cold wind passed by her side. It was the whip-tail attack of the golden-scaled beast. Bang! With a heavy blow, Lin Muyu's left shoulder armor had been shattered, and the bones of his arm also made a cracking sound as if they had been swept off. Without the protection of the gourd wall, his body could not withstand the direct attack of a 6,200 years old spirit beast even if he had tempered his bones and purified his marrow. Save the master. On the hillside, a group of Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards rushed down. Wei Chou jumped up and slammed his sword on the buttocks of the golden-scaled beast. Another group of Imperial Guards drew their bows and shot at close range. Suddenly, arrows bounced off the battle armor of the golden-scaled beast. This group of Imperial Guards also had guts. Since the arrows could not break the defense, they immediately rushed over with their spears. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, a spear light burst out on the spirit beast. Roar. The golden-scaled beast was furious, and the scales all over its body seemed to stand up. The wind and snow from all directions madly rushed towards the golden-scaled beast's body. In the next moment, light bloomed, and with the golden-scaled beast as the center, a wave of light energy burst out, immediately repelling a group of royal guards and royal army. Screams rang out incessantly and many people had been injured. Lin Muyu endured the pain and was forced to retreat several steps. She hastily raised her right arm, which was still able to be used. Flames lingered around it as she used fire to control the sword. The sword flew up and the true dragon essence fire frantically poured into the blade. At the same time she summoned her martial spirit and shouted, "Poison liquid." However, the poisonous liquid was not spat on the spirit beast, but on the blade of the sword. "Wei Chou, buy me a second," Lin Muyu shouted as she charged forward on her burning prairie sword. Wei Chou nodded and got up from the ground. He shook his long sword and turned it into a cold light that blasted towards the golden-scaled beast. However, the golden-scaled beast did not pay attention to him at all. It raised its claws and waved it lightly. Dang! Wei Chou's steel sword was immediately broken and his chest was even more stuffy. He was hit by the golden-scaled beast's claws and fell heavily into the snow, vomiting blood. Fortunately, he had the flame aura to protect his body, otherwise he would have died. Just as the golden-scaled beast was concentrating on attacking Wei Chou, a burning flame came from behind. It was Lin Muyu's dragon flame's spiral break. Puff. The powerful whirlpool penetrated the golden-scaled beast's scales, and the torn wound rolled out hot blood. At the same time, it also brought the poisonous liquid of the gourd flower into the golden-scaled beast's body. That piece of muscle quickly twitched and shrank. Roar. The originally majestic roar turned into a wail. The golden-scaled beast's palms carried golden energy and turned around to rush towards Lin Muyu. It jumped, and its claws fell from the sky, pouncing down with the pressure of Mount Tai. Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. Because of the injury, she was in a trance and could no longer dodge the falling star step. She made up her mind, clenched her teeth and waved her right arm, summoning the power deep in her body, the fourth element. In an instant her body felt like it was about to be torn apart. Her mind quickly became scorching hot, as if her whole body was about to be melted by this power. The powerful fourth element was not something his soul could withstand at the moment. Forcefully raising the power would obviously backfire on his body, but he did not care so much. If he did not use the power of the fourth element, he was afraid that his 51-man team would die in the dragon-seeking forest. Around his right fist that was flowing with blood, there were rays of light and shadows of gods and ghosts. They quickly turned into stars and the power surged out. Even if it was forcefully raised, it was still very amazing. For element demons and gods cry. Bang! A punch hit the golden-scaled beast's jaw, and the fist force went straight to its brain. At the same time, the golden-scaled beast's sharp claws also fell on Lin Muyu's chest, and with a crack, the breastplate was split into two, revealing the body that was soaked in blood below. Even copper skin and iron bones could not withstand such an attack. A tearing pain came from his chest and his body was also sent flying with the impact. The golden-scaled beast fell heavily to the ground, howling angrily. However, under the attack of the four luminaries' demon and god's cry, it was already a deathbed struggle. Hurry up and save the Lord. The injured Wei Cho let out a roar. Suddenly 9 imperial guards pulled out their swords and rushed over, surrounding the golden-scaled beast. Pew pew pew, the blades of their swords pierced into the body of the golden-scaled beast. Fresh blood gushed out, and the spiritual beast once again let out an anguished wail, completing the last part of its life. Lin Muyu looked up and saw that the golden-scaled beast had died. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, she didn't have to die here. She touched the bottles and jars in the bag on her waist. A few bottles of healing medicine had been shattered. Fortunately, there were still 2 bottles, which was enough. There was also a bottle of muscle-replenishing powder which was used together. This time even the bones were broken, so it was impossible not to use the muscle-replenishing powder. Fortunately, there were still more than a dozen bottles of muscle-replenishing powder, which was enough. Fortunately, there was also the muscle-replenishing powder, otherwise the speed of recovery would be horribly slow. Moreover, the heavy snow was about to seal the mountain and the weather was freezing. Healing the wounds was also a problem. Without the muscle-replenishing powder, it was easy for pus to form or malignant frostbite. Wei Cho handed over a warm golden-scaled beast spirit stone, but his eyes fell on Lin Muyu's terrible wounds. He couldn't help but say with a trembling voice, "My lord, you are the commander of the Imperial Guards. There is no need to use your flesh and blood to fight this 6,200 years old spirit beast. Moreover, Her Highness Yin and Princess Xi are so important people, you really shouldn't do this." Lin Muyu glanced at him and smiled. "If I didn't go, many people were destined to be killed by the golden-scaled beast." "So what?" Wei Cho said, "From the moment we joined the Imperial Guards, we have already made up our minds to be loyal to the Empire. If we can use our lives in exchange for a golden-scaled beast spirit stone to improve Her Highness Yin's cultivation, then it is worth it. But my lord, you have suffered such a serious injury." "Wei Cho," Lin Muyu said seriously, "do you think my injury is more important or the lives of the Imperial Guards?" That is a life. "I would rather suffer a serious injury than let one of the Imperial Guards die," Lin Muyu said with a sigh. Wei Chao's eyes were deep and he stood silently at the side. The white robe behind Lin Muyu had been dyed half red, but he didn't make a sound from beginning to end. After treating all the wounds, he changed into a new temple battle robe and put it on. He was full of energy as if he had never been injured. Of course, only he knew how painful it was. It seemed that he had been like this since he was young. Lin Muyu deeply understood that as a man, if he didn't bear the pain, who else could he rely on? Many of the imperial guards were injured, so they went to skin the golden-scaled beasts. The skin of the golden-scaled beasts could be used to make leather armor or robes, and the scales in the middle of the body could be crushed and used to make medicine. It was said that it was very effective in treating colds. As for the exact effect, no one knew. In any case, Lin Muyu knew nothing. He was well versed in alchemy and in the medical field of the human body. His attainments were probably far below Chu Yao's. Thinking of this, he covered his wound and couldn't help but miss his sister, Chu Yao. As he thought about it, the broken bone in his left arm felt an indescribable pain. He hurriedly circulated his Dou Qi throughout his body, and used the power of the forging dragon bone scroll to speed up the healing of the broken bone. This kind of pain was indescribable, and in the blink of an eye, his forehead was covered with cold sweat. Wei Chou could only clench his fists, but there was nothing he could do. The dinner could be considered to be sumptuous. There was grouper wolf soup, the heart of the golden-scaled beast, and some wild vegetables. It was very refreshing to eat. Because most of the soldiers were injured, they all rested on the spot and would leave the next day. This night Lin Muyu spent it in pain and suffering. Only until the wee hours of the morning did he feel a slight itch from the broken bone in his arm. Under the magical effect of the bone muscle replenishing powder, the bone had already begun to regenerate and fuse. However, his left arm still couldn't use much strength and was just hanging at the side. The splint was made from the cold spear shaft, and was so simple that it was somewhat ridiculous. Fortunately, his blood had already been tempered into the true dragon's blood. His vitality was extremely tenacious, and his recovery ability was also amazing. This broken bone shouldn't take too long to regenerate. At most, he would be able to move as usual in 3 to 5 days. After daybreak, the wind and snow still hadn't stopped. "Let's go." Lin Muyu turned over and got on the horse. Since he couldn't move his left hand, he could only use his right arm to hold the reins and slowly lead everyone out of the gourd valley. At the same time, he spread out his spirit sense to check if there was any movement in the surroundings. He cleverly circled around a snow bear that was at least 7,000 years old. There were many kinds of spirit beasts in the dragon-seeking forest, and there were many powerful spirit beasts that were more than 10,000 years old. Lin Muyu also knew that he must not meet any of them, or else his group might not even have the chance to escape. When it was near noon, suddenly an eagle guard in charge of scouting galloped in front of them and said, "Sir, we found a big pile of feces in front. It's steaming hot." "Is it human feces?" Wei Chou asked. The eagle guard in charge of scouting smiled. "Sir Wei Chou, that's a good question. But have you ever seen a human that can pull down 20 kilograms of feces in one breath?" Wei Chou was stunned and smiled. "Let's go take a look." Chapter 130. A pile of steaming hot feces fell onto the snowy ground. It had a diameter of 1 meter and was still emitting steam. It quickly melted the snow around it and seemed to be full of energy. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou and the other royal guards observed it for a long time. Wei Chou muttered, "The color and smell of the feces should be that of a wild boar. A wild boar that can poop out such a big pile can't be small. Moreover, it probably went out to look for food and didn't walk too fast. We just need to follow the smell and footprints to find it." As he spoke, Wei Chou sniffed his nose. He really didn't expect this brat to have this kind of skill. Lin Muyu laughed and said, "All right, Wei Chou, lead the way, let's go quickly." Yes. The group followed Wei Chou and quickly entered the sea of snow to search. They didn't even walk half a mile before they heard a hoo-hoo sound in front of them. They saw a huge creature digging its way through the snow and then devouring the wild grass buried under the snow. It looked very funny with its butt sticking out, but its body was definitely huge and looked like a small mountain. "Wow!" Wei Chou beamed with joy and said, "Let's not talk about 1,000 jin for this wild boar. Looking at its size, it should be at least 5,000 jin, right? It's almost a spirit." It was indeed a spirit. There were 2 golden lines on the head of this wild boar. It was a 2,000-year-old wild boar. A boar that could live for so long must have had enough to eat for many meals. In an instant, Lin Muyu thought of the wild boar that her father took her to eat when she was young. It was firm and tasty, far better than reared pork. She suddenly felt that this 2,000-year-old wild boar in front of her was actually very cute. Wei Chou raised his hand and smiled as he ordered, surround it and block the path of this wild boar. Everyone be careful, don't use arrows or weapons to attack because this boar will be used for the winter sacrifice ceremony. The carcass cannot be damaged and must be knocked unconscious. Do you understand? A group of royal guards whistled as they rode their horses forward. Wei Chou raised his long sword and rushed forward. He was the one in charge of the hunting mission this time. Lin Muyu had already lost an arm so he couldn't work anymore. However, Lin Muyu still urged her horse forward slowly. After all, the wild boar was a 2,000-year-old spirit beast. Wei Chou would definitely be able to defeat it, but it was hard to say if he could capture it without any losses. Yo. The group of royal guards began to clamor. Immediately, the wild boar raised its head and looked at everyone with its cute face. It felt that they had come with ill intentions. These humans all looked like hungry ghosts that had entered a pork shop. Hoo, the wild boar began to run for its life, but it was quickly pushed back by Wei Chou's true qi. It hurriedly turned around and ran for its life again. Lin Muyu couldn't stand it anymore. She raised her hand and a gourd vine suddenly broke out of the snow and tied up the wild boar tightly. She waved her right fist from afar and demon sound fist flew through the air. After a ping sound, the 2,000-year-old wild boar fell to the ground with a miserable howl. In just an instant, its heart had already been shattered by Lin Muyu's demon sound fist. There was no way it could struggle. It died just like that? Wei Chou was stunned. Oh right, how could it not die after being hit by demon sound fist? Lin Muyu was a little proud but she tried not to show it. Demon sound fist? Wei Chou was shocked. That's the secret technique of White Robe Chu Chu? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. When I was cultivating in Silver Fir City, I learned from Chu for a short period of time. He was the one who personally taught me the demon sound fist. Wei Chou immediately looked at Lin Muyu with not only respect, but also admiration. After all, Chu Chu was one of the few experts on the continent. Although no one knew how many Sacred Realm experts there were in the Shattered Cauldron realm, there were only two who served the empire. One was Chu Chu, the other was Lei Hong. Of course, there was also Jin Yifan. It was just that these people didn't know that a divine overlord had such a cultivation. Lin Muyu had once studied under Chu Chu. Just this fact alone was enough to make these royal guards respect him. Let me try. Wei Chou walked forward and inserted both of his hands into the snow. Holding the boar's corpse, true qi flowed throughout his body as he growled, "Get up." Rustle. The snow moved but the wild boar's carcass didn't move at all. Another imperial guard laughed heartily. Wei Chou, this wild boar is at least 4,000 to 5,000 catties in weight. How can you lift it by yourself? Someone drag the cart over. One of you will be in charge of shoveling the snow and clearing the path. We're going back to Lanyan City. Yes. Seeing the wild boar being moved onto the cart, Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She brushed the snow off her shoulders and felt that this world of ice and snow was a bit more leisurely. At least she didn't have to worry about scheming against each other here, unlike staying in Lanyan City. Whether it was Zheng Yifan, Xiang Yu, Zhenfang, Luo Xing, or the others, everyone was scheming against her and couldn't wait to kill her. Compared to Lanyan City, Xiaoyao was much more at ease in the dragon-seeking forest. However, there were Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao, Feng Jixing, Qin Yan, Chu Huaying, and Zhang Wei in Lanyan City, but there were no close friends in the dragon-seeking forest. This was probably the reason why life was not as good as 8 or 9 out of 10. Although the wheels of the cart were big, the mountainous terrain was too rugged. There were many places where it couldn't be dragged over, so they could only be carried by manpower. A wild boar that weighed 5,000 catties was not easy to carry. 5 royal guards and 15 royal guards, a total of 20 people, barely managed to lift it. Along the way they broke countless crossbars. The speed of the return journey wasn't fast. A 4-day journey on horseback took nearly half a month. Fortunately, they were still able to make it in time for the winter sacrifice ceremony. On the 6th day after being injured, Lin Muyu's arm was back to normal. He used the spirit pulse technique to look inside his body and found that the bones had completely healed and were no different from before. As a result, he was itching to carry the wild boar with the royal guards. Fortunately, the snow hadn't stopped yet, so the wild boar's carcass wouldn't stink. However, under Wei Chou's suggestion, they still emptied the wild boar's innards. On the way back to Lanyan City, it would probably be air-dried into a giant piece of cured meat. When they were about 200 miles away from the capital, the snow finally stopped. The sky cleared up and the sun shone on a group of tired people. Lin Muyu urged his horse forward, escorting the cart behind him. "Sir, we will reach Lanyan City in a day's time." Wei Chou said joyfully, "It should be the first time in the history of the Eagle Nest Camp that we have completed all the patrolling missions in one go. I wonder how happy the commander will be." Lin Muyu smiled. "It doesn't matter how happy the commander will be. We don't want to be meritorious, but we want to make no mistakes." "Sir is right." Wei Chou grinned and said, "There must be a lot of people in the Eagle Nest Camp who are laughing at us. They probably won't think that we can complete all the missions in a month." "Yes, that's right." At this moment, suddenly there was a jejia sound in the sky, followed by a white bird flapping its wings and landing directly on Lin Muyu's shoulder. He knew this bird. It was a messenger bird raised by Chu Yao. Its name was Little White. Because there were a few strange spots on its neck, Lin Muyu recognized it. She lifted one of the legs of the messenger bird and took out a piece of paper from the tube. There was a line of beautiful handwriting on it. "You, how did the mission go? When will you be back?" It was signed by Chu Yao and her handwriting was very beautiful. Wei Chou craned his neck to take a look and said with a smile, "It seems that there is a wonderful person in Lanyan City who is worried about you, sir." Lin Muyu glanced at him. "If you don't want to get beaten up, don't talk so much." Wei Chou smiled and walked away. Lin Muyu wrote on the back of the paper with a burnt branch, "I will be back soon. I will see you in Lanyan City. Lin Muyu." The messenger bird flapped its wings and flew away. This messenger bird had the blood of both Lin Muyu and Chu Yao. It was like the bond between the two of them, and Lin Muyu treasured it very much. A day later they arrived at Lanyan City when it was almost dusk. However, they couldn't enter the city and had to go to the Eagle Nest Barracks first. On the mountain road, a few Imperial guards were lighting a brazier and adding fuel to it. When Lin Muyu and the others appeared on the mountain road, a winged cavalry warrior immediately galloped up the mountain and shouted, "Sir, Lin Muyu's troops have returned to the barracks to submit their orders." As soon as he shouted, a lot of people came to watch the troops that had been out for nearly a month. Lin Muyu's bag was filled with a lot of spirit stones, so they naturally couldn't see it. However, the huge wild boar on the trailer at the back shocked everyone. Even the experienced Imperial guards had never seen such a huge wild boar. A group of people pointed at it with joy on their faces. After all, if Lin Muyu and the others completed their mission, they wouldn't have to run around and be tired anymore. When they entered the barracks, the commander of the Eagle Nest Barracks, Meng Fong, came out to welcome them. He smiled and cupped his fists. "Sir Lin Muyu, you've worked hard on this trip." Lin Muyu said respectfully, "Fortunately, we didn't fail you. We have brought the things back. I don't know how heavy the wild boar behind us is, but it must be more than 500 kilograms. Meng Fong's eyes were like torches. He laughed and said, "This wild boar will be at least 2,000 kilograms after its internal organs are removed. Even His Majesty will be happy to see such a huge wild boar as an offering. It's just that, have you obtained the required spirit stones?" Everyone understood that it was easy to kill a wild boar, but it wasn't so easy to hunt a spirit beast that was more than 5,000 years old. Even Meng Fong might not be able to complete the task, let alone a team consisting of Lin Muyu and the others. Just as Lin Muyu was about to take out the spirit stones to hand over the order, someone suddenly rode up the mountain. He held a dark blue flag with a purple flower emblem in his hand and said, "Lin Muyu of the Eagle Nest Barracks, receive the order." Lin Muyu was stunned. She turned around and said respectfully, "I'm here." The messenger smiled and said, "Her Highness heard that Sir Lin has returned to Lanyan City, so she specially arranged a banquet at the Phoenix Perching Hall and invited Sir Lin to attend the banquet immediately. In addition, she asked me to tell you that Princess She is also there." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She didn't expect Qin Yin's message to be so fast. She knew when she arrived at Lanyan City. "Then wait until I hand over the order first, sir." The messenger smiled and said, "Her Highness said that she invited you to Zetian Hall without stopping. As for handing over the order, you can wait for a while, right?" Meng Fong hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Of course, Her Highness's matter is the most important. Sir Lin Muyu, you can go with him first." "Sir." Lin Muyu cupped her hands in a humble manner. She pulled the reins and rushed down the mountain with the messenger. Chapter 131. In the Zhou Palace, many palace servants were sweeping away the snow. It was the first sign of sunshine after the heavy snow. Everyone seemed to be in a good mood and their faces were brimming with smiles. Lin Muyu had an eagle guard waist tag, so he went straight to the Phoenix Perching Palace. When he arrived at the front of the Phoenix Perching Palace, he saw the beautiful figures of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi standing in the snow from afar. They were already waiting for him. He got off the horse and Tang Xiaoxi had already walked up to him. She smiled and said, "Mu, are you all right in the dragon-seeking forest? I heard from the guards that you were injured when you were fighting a 6,200-year-old golden-scaled beast in the dragon-seeking forest." "I've already recovered." Lin Muyu patted his chest and said with a smile, "A mere spirit beast is not a problem for me. I've already brought the spirit stones back, but they need to be verified by the commander of the Eagle's Nest before they can be delivered to the Zhou Palace." As he spoke, he walked over to Qin Yin and performed a handsome empire's military salute. He said, "Greetings, Your Highness." Qin Yin giggled. She walked up to him and held his wrist. She smiled faintly and said, "Ayu, when did our relationship become so estranged? Why didn't I know?" Lin Mu smiled. "I know I was wrong. Well, I was summoned here as soon as I returned to the Eagle's Nest camp. I didn't even have the time to hand in my orders. Is there anything important?" "Yes." Qin Yin nodded seriously and said with a smile, "Xiaoxi and I have invited you to our meat fruit feast. Come quickly. You've just returned to Lanyan City, so Xiaoxi and I will hold a feast for you." "Ah, such a good thing. Is there anything delicious to eat?" "You'll know when you come." "Thank you, Your Highness." She followed the princess and the princess into Phoenix Perching Hall. Along the way, the palace maids all took a second look at Lin Muyu, who was dressed in the Sacred Hall's battle robes. After all, most of the royal guards were cultivators between the ages of 30 and 50. Many of them were uncles and had decent strength, but they were unbearably rough. They were simply unsightly. It was extremely rare to see a royal guard like Lin Muyu, who was strong but had dashing eyebrows and bright eyes. There were only 3 of them, Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying and Lin Muyu. Seeing the palace maids smiling at them from afar, Lin Muyu felt uncomfortable all over. He felt like he was being watched like a monkey. Tang Xiaoxi seemed to see through his thoughts. She turned around and walked over gracefully, holding his hand as she followed Qin Yin. In the main hall of Phoenix Perching Hall, waves of fragrance wafted into their nostrils. What came into view were several exquisite gold-threaded silver wooden tables around a stove. There were all kinds of rare fruits on the tables, and the palace maids were roasting a deer leg. The fragrance was alluring. Lin Muyu had been out and about for the past month and had never had such treatment before. Suddenly he felt his stomach growl again. Qin Yin smiled slightly. "Xiaoxi, you take a seat." Lin Muyu sat on the ground and cupped his fists respectfully. "Thank you, Your Highness." Qin Yin frowned slightly and said with some displeasure, "There are only the 3 of us here. You should just call me Xiao Yin." "But..." Lin Muyu didn't dare to overstep his boundaries. "But what?" Qin Yin retorted. "You can call Princess Xiaoxi, but can't you call me Your Highness Xiao Yin? You, in your heart, am I, Qin Yin, really that hard to get close to? Actually, compared to your current respectful attitude, I prefer the attitude you had towards me in the dragon-seeking forest. Do you understand?" Lin Muyu was stunned. He thought about his attitude towards Qin Yin in the dragon-seeking forest. He seemed to treat her as an ordinary girl, so he was very relaxed. Now he was indeed too respectful. He was an unruly fellow, so he smiled and said, "Then I will call you Xiao Yin when there are no outsiders around. But you can't push me out of the Zhou Palace Hall and execute me in front of everyone if you're unhappy one day." Qin Yin burst into laughter. She gracefully lifted the hem of her skirt and performed a beautiful ladylike bow to Lin Muyu. She smiled faintly and said, "I will do as you bid. Please don't be angry, Your Highness." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Qin Yin was actually the same as Tang Xiaoxi. Although she was born in a royal family, she still retained the innocence and purity of a young girl. She didn't have the unruly, cruel and ruthless temperament of a noble's child. This was really admirable. "Can I eat it now?" He looked at the deer leg, drooling with desire. Qin smiled. Eat it, eat it. You definitely didn't get to eat these things in the dragon-seeking forest for so many days. More. Lin Muyu raised his hand and pulled out the burning prairie sword to cut the meat, but it gave Qin and Tang Xiaoxi a fright. Tang Xiaoxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she took out a table knife from the plate and said, "Idiot Mu, use this. The burning prairie sword is used to kill enemies, not to eat." Oh. Lin Muyu put away the burning prairie sword awkwardly, then picked up the table knife and cut a piece of venison. She put it in her mouth and chewed slowly. Immediately, the fresh and delicious taste and the tempting greasy taste entered her throat. This deer leg had been processed many times and there were countless condiments on it. Obviously, it was not something the meat soup they cooked in the dragon-seeking forest could compare to. Her appetite was great and she ate 2 large pieces of venison in a row. Here, this is the freshly warmed Yinhua wine. Tang Xiaoxi poured wine for him. Before the wine entered his throat, he could already smell a faint fragrance. That was the smell of the Yinhua. No wonder the Qin Empire would confer the Yinhua as the empire's symbol. Not only could the Yinhua be used as medicine and food, but it could also be used to make wine. It seemed that the people of the Qin Empire were actually a group of foodies, conferring the thing they ate and drank as the national flower. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but ask with a smile. Shao Yin, the empire conferred the Yinhua as the family symbol. Is it because the Yinhua is very delicious? Qin Yin's beautiful eyes widened and she smiled helplessly. It's not what you think. The reason why the Yinhua is the family emblem is because it can be eaten, and it can also be used as medicine to save people. The other reason is that the Yinhua never wilts and it can even bloom in the cold winter. Therefore, the Qin family has made the Yinhua the family symbol, symbolizing the Qin family's tenacity and unyielding character. We are the rulers of the empire, so we must be able to bear everything and take the welfare of the people as our own responsibility. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu hurriedly cupped her fists and said, "Sorry, my words were a bit profane." "Don't be so nervous." Qin Yin smiled. "We are friends, so of course I won't blame you. Besides, it was just a normal conversation, there was no profane." "Thank you very much, Shao Yin." Unknowingly, Lin Muyu once again had a good impression of Qin Yin. If being approachable was her greatest strength, then her words just now had already displayed her wisdom. Every word was sonorous and unquestionable, defending the ruling power of the Qin family. As they were eating, there was suddenly a faint noise coming from afar. Qin Yin frowned and asked, "What's wrong?" A royal guard cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, it's coming from the Qingyin Palace. Seems like someone is causing trouble there." Qin Yin was stunned. How is that possible? The Qingyin Palace is where Imperial Father reviews memorials. Who dares to cause trouble there? As she said this, Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu understood and stood up. "Prepare the horse immediately." "Your Highness, shall we go and take a look now?" Qin Yin nodded. She was the only heir of the family and naturally cared about everything in the Qingyin Palace. After all, the Qingyin Palace was the core of the imperial capital and also the center of the empire. Nothing could go wrong here. Facing the cold wind, Qin Yin wore a deep blue princess cloak. Lin Muyu wore a snow-white holy temple robe and Tang Xiaoxi wore a red cloak. The 3 of them mounted their horses and rode away. Behind them, the dragon guards of the 18 royal guards quickly mounted their horses and led around 300 royal guards. The guards of the Phoenix Perching Palace were indeed very strong. Outside the Qingyin Palace, a large group of people gathered. There were around 100 royal guards and a large group of Divine Might Battalion soldiers in armor. There were more than 1,000 of them. "What's the matter?" Qin Yin quickly approached. A palace servant immediately shouted, "Her Highness Yin has arrived." Everyone became solemn and the dispute seemed to have died down. Qin Yin parted the crowd and walked over. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi stood to the side and discovered that a fight had already broken out. Many people were injured and there were bloodstains on the ground. Impressively, it was a fight between the Divine Might Battalion and the Royal Guards. In the center of the crowd, a royal guard carrying a long sword had his arms stained with blood. He was around 50 years old and was already quite old. His face was ashen and his long sword had been broken in two. He turned around and respectfully bowed to Qin Yin. "Your Highness, I. Qin Yin raised her eyebrows. "Lord Rong Hanyuan, what is going on here?" Lin Muyu's gaze fell on Rong Hanyuan and discovered that he was wearing the insignia of a chiliarch. It was obvious that he was a high-ranking officer in the royal guards. His rank was even higher than Chu Huaying's. Tang Xiaoxi whispered, Lord Rong Hanyuan is Brother Qin Lei's right-hand man. He is known as the second most powerful person in the royal guards. Is that so? Lin Muyu nodded. Rong Hanyuan panted heavily and looked at Qin Yin. "Your Highness, I have been wrongly accused. I hope that your Highness can help me." "How are you being wrongly accused?" Before Qin Yin could say anything, a voice suddenly rang out. The voice was extremely penetrating and it seemed to have a force field within it, causing the people around to be unable to speak or move. This voice was very familiar and Lin Muyu's gaze followed the direction of the voice. To her surprise, she saw an old man in a black cloak, Zheng Yifan. "So it's a deity overlord." Qin Yin smiled. "How could a deity overlord be so free to bring the Divine Might Battalion into Zetian Palace without notifying me?" Zheng Yifan's expression was stern. "For the sake of the country we must not bother with trifles. These are the words that the late emperor left for me. I will naturally abide by the late emperor's edict and will not rest until he is dead." As he spoke, Zheng Yifan waved his hand and took out a scroll. "The chiliarch of the royal guards, Rong Hanyuan, is a second-class noble. However, he has amassed thousands of hectares of fertile land in the west of Lanyan City. According to the empire's military law, a general under a chiliarch cannot amass more than 10 hectares of land. Rong Hanyuan has amassed so much fertile land which is a violation of the military law. He has exceeded the limit by 100 times and should be beheaded." Rong Hanyuan's face was ashen as he hurriedly said, "These fields were bought by the veterans of the royal guards. We have decided to retire from the army and return to the fields. However, they are all recorded under my name. Your Highness, please investigate this. The evidence is conclusive and you still want to deny it." Zheng Yifan roared angrily. His voice carried a powerful impact. In the next moment his body flashed like a phantom and appeared in front of Rong Hanyuan. He raised his left hand and dashed forward. Poor Rong Hanyuan's head flew through the air with burning blood. It was firmly held in Zheng Yifan's hand. "I will release 3 chapters tonight at dawn and another one at noon. Don't say I didn't explode." Chapter 132. You. Seeing Rong Hanyuan's body fall to the ground, Qin Yin's beautiful face twisted in anger. She pointed at Zheng Yifan and said, "You dare to kill someone in front of me? Zheng Yifan, how dare you?" Zheng Yifan handed Rong Hanyuan's head to a 1,000-man commander of the Divine Might Battalion. He cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, please forgive this old official for his disrespect. Rong Hanyuan is a vermin in the army and must be killed immediately. This old official will personally apologize to His Majesty." Whoosh whoosh, Lin Muyu was furious. Her battle chi turned into flames and surrounded her fists. The burning prairie sword on her back also trembled slightly because of its master's anger. It seemed as if it would be unsheathed at any time and kill the enemy. However, Lin Muyu couldn't do anything in the end. He didn't even have a 10% chance of winning against a sanctuary like Zheng Yifan. If he really did make a move, he might even implicate Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin. After thinking about it, he had no other choice but to regret. He hated himself for not being able to break through Zheng Yifan's domain suppression. Otherwise, if he made a move, Rong Hanyuan wouldn't have been beheaded. This meritorious old general of the Imperial Guards was the senior of him, Qin Yan, Chu Huayin and the others. He shouldn't have died like this. At this moment the sound of hooves could be heard from afar. Qin Lei led a large group of Imperial Guards and rushed over. When he saw Rong Hanyuan's headless corpse, his face instantly paled. He lifted his thunder-split blade and dismounted from his horse. His entire body was enshrouded in battle chi and the god-binding chains surrounded his thunder-split blade. He roared, "Who was it? Which bastard killed Rong Hanyuan?" "Little prince, it was this old official." Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan still had a respectful look on his face as he said, "Rong Hanyuan privately hoarded thousands of hectares of fertile land. He knowingly broke the law and even tried to resist when this old official tried to arrest him. Therefore this old official killed him on the spot. Qin Yan had an enraged look as the thunder-split saber flickered with lightning sparks. He nearly crushed his steel teeth from clenching them as he roared furiously, "Old Dogzeng, you're going too far. Today I Qin Lei will not rest until you're dead." Young Prince. Zhen Yifan let out a shout and immediately the domain energy of the sanctuary expanded once again, suppressing everyone present. Qin Lei was the first to bear the brunt of it. It was as if all the power in his body had been imprisoned, and an invisible net of energy bound his body. However, Qin Lei still desperately raised his battle energy, to the point where his veins were bulging and streams of blood seeped out of his skin. The other focal point of the domain was naturally Lin Muyu. He didn't make a sound, but when he saw fresh blood seeping out from the corner of Qin Lei's mouth, an indescribable rage immediately surged into his heart. The dou qi in his body circulated crazily, rapidly increasing. In the next moment, the dou qi in his body violently transformed into the 7 luminaries' profound energy, and one after another, the celestial devil constellations appeared around his body. Break! Lin Muyu let out a shout and immediately, the power of the 4 luminaries demon and god Weep transformed into a strong wind that surged in all directions, forcibly dispersing the domain pressure that Zhen Yifan had condensed. It seemed that Zhen Yifan had also missed this point. He originally thought that the strongest impact would come from Qin Lei, but he didn't expect that Lin Muyu would actually be able to break his domain with an unknown source of power. Zhen Yifan's body trembled and he swayed slightly. The blood in his body was in turmoil and he felt rather uncomfortable. He frowned and thought to himself, where did this brat get such an evil power from? Once Qin Lei left the domain, he raised his long blade and rushed out. He leaped into the air and suddenly slashed his blade down in front of Zhen Yifan. His martial soul surged and exploded, turning everything around him into dust. It was the swift and fierce strike of the lightning split blade technique. 4-directional wild blade. Father! Among the Divine Might Battalion's crowd, Zhen Fang raised his sword and rushed over. His battle energy was enshrouded in the long sword, and he hastily blocked Qin Lei's attack, protecting Zhen Yifan as he retreated. However, who knew that the remaining force of Qin Lei's blade was far more than that? The blade suddenly rose from the soil and he shouted, "Lightning split light slash." Plang. Zhen Fang was unable to block it. Although he and Qin Lei had the cultivation of the first level of the heaven realm, the disparity between the strength of their martial souls and martial skills was too great. He flew out along with his sword and landed heavily on the snowy ground. Qin Lei. Zhen Yifan's voice was like a sudden clap of thunder. He stood majestically in the midst of the mess, and his face was ashen as he said, "I will clarify the whole story with His Majesty regarding Rong Hunyuan's matter. Don't be so overbearing here." Qin Lei gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. His face was pale and fresh blood continuously flowed down the lightning split blade. After all, there was a huge gap of 3 realms between them. No matter how hard he tried, he would never be Zhen Yifan's opponent. Lin Muyu slowly walked forward and reached out her hand to hold Qin Lei's shoulder. She said, "A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Big brother Qin Lei, just let it go." Qin Lei slowly lowered his head. The blood and tears in his eyes mixed together, and his shoulders trembled slightly. At this moment he was almost swallowed up by unwillingness and anger. Zhen Yifan had killed Rong Hunyuan in front of a group of imperial guards. This was a huge humiliation. Rong Hunyuan had followed Qin Lei for many years, and he had done his duty diligently. However, he ended up like this in the end. Qin Lei could not absolve himself from the blame. Qin Lei's arm, which was holding onto the blade, was trembling slightly. His eyes were bloodshot and he said in a low voice, "If I don't kill Zhen Yifan, I, Qin Lei, swear that I am not a man in this life." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "All right, I understand." Zhen Yifan snorted coldly. He helped Zhen Fang up and led a group of Divine Might Battalion soldiers away ostentatiously. Qin Lei gritted his teeth and picked up Rong Hunyuan's head from the ground. His face was pale and he said, "Use a needle and thread to sew General Song's head and body together. Bury him with the ceremony of a deputy general." Yes. Chu Huaying received Rong Hanyuan's head. His brows were tightly knitted, and he allowed the fresh blood to dye his wrist guard and battle robe red. He turned around and left. Qin Lei seemed to have aged a lot. He looked at Lin Muyu and said, You're back? Yes. Lin Muyu didn't know what to say to comfort Qin Lei. She didn't know how deep the friendship between Qin Lei and Rong Hanyuan was, so anything she said would seem to be inappropriate. Qin Lei held his shoulder and said, This time it's all thanks to you. Otherwise the consequences would be unthinkable. Zheng Yifan is a dog with wild ambitions. If we let him continue to be so rampant, I'm afraid that our Qin family's empire will be in danger. As he spoke, Qin Lei looked at Qin Yin and said, Your Highness, shall we go and have an audience with His Majesty? He dared to openly enter Zetian Palace Hall today to kill my general. Perhaps he will directly kill his way into Zetian Palace Hall tomorrow to make things difficult for His Majesty. Qin Yin nodded. Yes, let's go and see Royal Father now. At this moment Lin Muyu's body slightly trembled, and the 7 luminaries' profound energy in his body started to backfire. After all, the strength of his soul wasn't enough to control the 4th luminaries. This time he forcefully used the 4th luminaries to break Zheng Yifan's domain. Zheng Yifan was fine, but he himself was already injured. Tang Xiaoxi was attentive and she hurriedly supported him and asked, Mu, are you all right? I'm fine. Lin Muyu waved his hand and forcefully raised his battle chi to resist the 7 luminaries' profound energies backfire. However, it was as if the inside of his body was overturned, and he couldn't recover in a short period of time. Half of the power in his body seemed to have been sucked away by the 7 luminaries' profound energy. It seemed that although the 7 luminaries could allow him to challenge enemies of a higher level, there was a price to pay. Big Brother Qin Lei, Her Highness Xiaoxi. He looked at the crowd and said, When I was fighting with Zheng Yifan just now, I suffered some internal injuries. I'm afraid that my current strength isn't enough to protect all of you. Lin Muyu requests to leave first. Qin Yin looked at him worriedly. Do you want me to get the imperial physician to diagnose my internal injuries? No need, thank you, Xiao Yin. Tang Xiaoxi nodded and said, Then Big Brother Qin Lei and Xiao Yin will go see His Majesty and I'll accompany you back. Be careful. After leaving the Zetian Palace, Lin Muyu slowly rode on his warhorse. His face was slightly pale, but after silently circulating the dragon forging bone remnant scroll for a few days, the backfire of the 7 luminaries' profound energy in his body was forcefully suppressed, and he had also recovered quite a bit of strength. When he arrived at Tongtian Street, he suddenly turned his horse around and went right. Mu, aren't you going back to the Eagle Nest camp? Tang Xiaoxi asked in surprise. No, I'm going to the Divine Palace first. All right. Tang Xiaoxi didn't ask for the reason, because she knew that Lin Muyu definitely had his reasons for doing so. When they arrived at the Divine Palace, a few Divine Palace guards respectfully said, Madam Lin Muyu, you're back? Lin Muyu nodded and his complexion didn't look too good, so the guards didn't say much and bowed to Tang Xiaoxi, who was behind him. Tang Xiaoxi waved her hand, indicating that they didn't need to stand on ceremony. The Divine Palace was silent. Not far away, sounds of fighting could be heard from the training hall. From afar, Qin Yan's entire body was covered with the defensive spirit power of the dragon scale armor martial spirit, and he was defending against the sword and blade attacks of a Silver Star sparring master. And no matter how the Silver Star sparring master attacked, he was unable to break through the defense of the dragon scale armor martial spirit. The world's #1 defensive martial spirit deserved its reputation. Lin Muyu didn't disturb Qin Yan's cultivation, and stepped into the inner hall step by step. In the long corridor, Guyang was holding a scroll and studying it, and when he raised his head he saw Lin Muyu and smiled. You finally returned from your cultivation outside? Did everything go smoothly? Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. Everything went smoothly, I've already completed the mission. Grandpa Guyang, I want to look for Grandpa Lei Hong. Is he still in the Divine Palace? Yes, he's here, I'll bring you there now. All right. Inside the main hall, Lei Hong sat cross-legged, battle chi lingering around his body, and he was cultivating. After Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi and Guyang entered, they didn't disturb him and just sat quietly at the side and waited. Not long after, Lei Hong opened his eyes after one circulation and said with a smile, You Princess Shi, you're here? Yes. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Lei Hong said, since you're here there must be something, right? Lin Muyu asked, Grandpa Lei Hong, I have something to ask you and I hope you can answer me truthfully. And ask you. Grandpa Lei Hong and Xing Yifan, who's stronger? Lin Muyu asked directly. Lei Hong was stunned, stroked his white beard and said with a smile, Xing Yifan is stronger. Then between Grandpa Chu Chu and Xing Yifan, who's stronger? Lin Muyu continued to ask. Lei Hong smiled slightly. Fire Cauldron Chu Chu, his attainments in the law of fire is supreme in the world, and his fire palms are rarely matched, but Zheng Yifan has hidden his strength, so, in my opinion, Chu Chu and Zheng Yifan's strength are on par. I understand. Lin Muyu let out a sigh of relief and said, Grandpa Lei Hong, write a letter and send it to Grandpa Chu Chu, tell him to return to Lanyan City. Wait. Lei Hong was stunned. Chapter 133. Not long ago, Zheng Yifan brought 1,000 soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion into Zetian Palace and killed the deputy commander of the Imperial Guards, Rong Hanyuan, with a fabricated crime. He killed Rong Hanyuan in front of me, Her Highness Yin and Princess Shi. Lin Muyu didn't answer the question. What? Lei Hong frowned. Zheng Yifan dared to be so insolent? Yes. Lin Muyu said. Zheng Yifan's actions are nothing more than a warning to the Imperial Guards to not be enemies with the Divine Marquis Mansion. He's already so arrogant, I'm worried that he might harm Her Highness Yin and His Majesty at any time. So I hope that Grandpa Lei Hong can find Grandpa Chu Chu as soon as possible and let him stay at Zetian Palace. The Emperor and Princess need him now. I understand. Lei Hong took a deep breath. Chu Chu will definitely return to Lanyan City within 5 days, but you're now a thorn in the Divine Marquis Mansion's flesh. You're also stationed at the Eagle Nest Mountain outside the city. You must be careful. I'm not worried that Zheng Yifan will harm His Majesty, but I'm worried that he will harm you. Lin Muyu said leisurely, I'm fine. It won't be that easy for Zheng Yifan to kill me. Plus, there are dozens of Eagle Guards and hundreds of Imperial Guards in the Eagle Nest camp. He won't be able to do it easily. Yes. Lei Hong said, hurry back to the camp before the sun sets. Be careful once you leave the city. Yes. Lei Hong stood up and said, Deacon Guyang, prepare a horse for me. Great Deacon, where are you going? Guyang asked in surprise. Lei Hong smiled. Before Chu Chu returns to Lanyan City, I'll protect His Majesty and Her Highness Yin in Zetian Palace. Although I'm no match for Zheng Yifan, if he wants to kill me he'll have to pay the price in blood. His Great Deacon. Lin Muyu also smiled faintly and left the sacred hall with Tang Xiaoxi. It was close to dusk and the streets were filled with pedestrians. From afar, the spiritual medicine department opposite the holy temple looked like two giants standing majestically among the buildings of the imperial capital, facing the holy temple from afar, like two giant gods guarding the imperial capital. Xiaoxi, I think. Lin Muyu suddenly stopped her horse. Tang Xiaoxi giggled, her eyes sparkling with cunning. Do you want to see Sister Chu Yao? Yeah. Lin Muyu also knew that Tang Xiaoxi was interested in her, so she asked, you won't be jealous or angry, right? Tang Xiaoxi shook her head and smiled. Mu, you and Sister Chu Yao risked your life to come all the way from Kathia City to Wild Orchid City. If you ignore her, I'll really question your character. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. What's wrong with my character? It's pretty good. Tang Xiaoxi flipped off her horse and said, then I won't accompany you in. Come out quickly and send me back to the Duke's mansion on the way. Okay. After leaving her horse outside, Lin Muyu quickly stepped into the spiritual medicine department. No one stopped her along the way and she went straight to the courtyard where Chu Yao lived. Just as she pushed open the courtyard door, she heard a sharp whistling sound. Ping. The pear blossom sword was shot through the air into a tree trunk in the courtyard. Chu Yao stood a few meters away with 2 fingers pressed together, and true energy enshrouded her fingers. Not bad. Lin Muyu smiled. Chu Yao was stunned and then her eyes immediately turned red. She opened her arms and threw herself into Lin Muyu's embrace, her shoulders trembling. I heard a lot of bad rumors. I thought that something bad had happened to you in the dragon-seeking forest. I have nightmares every night. It's great that you came back alive. Lin Muyu hugged her senior sister's slender waist helplessly and smiled. Didn't I come back alive? Sister Chuyao, time is precious. I still have to return to the Eagle Nest camp to submit my orders. Come, let me teach you a few advanced techniques of sword kinesis. And alright. Chuyao was happy. Thus, within 20 minutes, Lin Muyu taught her all the secrets and tricks of the four-element sword kinesis. He did not know how much Chuyao could learn, but with her talent in comprehending the sword heart so quickly, she would definitely succeed. Lin Muyu's spirit pulse technique extended out, and he could see through the flow of the innate qi in Chuyao's body. He could already tell that Chuyao's cultivation had advanced to the level of War Elder and stepped into the second level of the Earth Realm. With her advancement speed, she should be able to step into the third level of the Earth Realm in half a year. Looking at Chuyao's appearance, she still had short hair, but she was wearing exquisite soft armor. She was wearing the Spirit Medicine Department's white robes. She looked very spirited and valiant. Lin Muyu couldn't help feeling a bit comforted. He knew he couldn't protect Chuyao for the rest of his life. Making her stronger was the best way to protect her. After teaching the four-element sword kinesis, he left in a hurry. Night fell. Outside the Spirit Medicine Department, Tang Xiaoxi had been waiting impatiently for a long time. However, when she saw Lin Muyu walk out of the Spirit Medicine Department with a tired face, she couldn't bear to blame him. She just asked, "How is Sister Chuyao recently?" "Pretty good." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "I taught her the sword kinesis. Sister Chuyao's advancement speed is quite fast. By the way, Xiaoxi, how is your cultivation progress recently?" Tang Xiaoxi raised her beautiful eyes, puffed out her full chest and said, "I stepped into the third level of the Earth Realm half a month ago. Well, I should be close to the level 57 Battle Saint. If there are no accidents, I should be able to step into the Heaven Realm in about half a month." "How is it, Mu? I'm about to catch up to you." Lin Muyu snickered. "Hey, even if you step into the Heaven Realm, I'm afraid you're still no match for me," Tang Xiaoxi pouted. "Humph, Mu is a baddie, don't provoke me. Alright, go back early." After sending Tang Xiaoxi back to the Duke's mansion, Lin Muyu immediately spurred her horse towards Eagle's Nest Mountain. In less than half an hour she had already ascended the mountain. In the darkness of the night, there was an endless stream of royal guards ascending the mountain. On the backs of their horses there were fire foxes, swift wolves, cloud deer and other prey. These were all for the enjoyment of Zetian Palace. It was a stark contrast to the lives of the poor commoners outside the city. However, when she thought about it, there were actually only two masters in Zetian Palace, Qin Jin and Qin Yin, and there were not many palace maids in attendance in Zetian Palace. If it was an ancient emperor of China with 3 palaces and 6 courtyards and tens of thousands of palace attendants, it would not be as simple as just asking for 20 cloud deer, it would be at least 2,000. In comparison, Zetian Palace was really simple. Qin Jin and Qin Yin's life could not even be considered luxurious. When they stepped into the camp, they saw a large group of people gathered in the distance. From afar they could hear a wild and arrogant voice. "You bunch of trash, and you're still talking about obtaining the spirit stones of a 6,000-year-old golden-scaled beast? What do you think? You can't produce the spirit stones, yet you still want to make a false accusation. Men, arrest all of them and bring them to the Lord Commander." This voice belonged to Gong Sun and it was too unique. It was so shrill that it sounded like the eunuch attendants in the palace. "Not good." Lin Muyu's heart sank. He immediately spurred his horse forward and shouted, "Get out of the way." His martial spirit had already entered his body, and it protected him and his warhorse as he charged forward. Parting the crowd, he saw Wei Chou and a group of subordinates surrounded in the middle of the crowd. Wei Chou's chest was even covered in blood as if he had been stabbed by a sword. Gong Sun and another Heavenly State Imperial Guard were laughing at the side. The other Heavenly State Imperial Guard, Lin Muyu recognized him. His name was Su Gong and he was a centurion of the Eagle Guards. He was also from the Divine Marquis residence and he was very strong. It was probably because of these two Heavenly State experts that Wei Chou and the others were no match for them. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu flipped off his horse, and the burning prairie sword was pulled out of its sheath by the power of lightning. He held it firmly in his hand and his expression was not very good. He said lightly, "Wei Chou, what's wrong?" Wei Chao's face was still stained with blood. He gritted his teeth and said, "My lord, Gong Sun and Su Gong insisted that we did not complete the mission. Gong Sun even said that I should fulfill the promise and kneel to him. If I did not comply, they would lead the others to injure us." Gong Sun probably took advantage of the fact that Su Gong was also here. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Lin Muyu, you said that previously, you should have nothing to say now, right? Your subordinate's mouth is not clean, so I will help you teach him a lesson. This is the rule of the Eagle Nest Camp." The rule of the Eagle Nest Camp? Lin Muyu was infuriated. Who gave the people of the Divine Marquis residence such a great advantage? As he spoke, Lin Muyu reached into his pocket and took out the spirit stone of the golden-scaled beast. With a burst of fighting energy, the spirit stone shone brightly. This was obviously a spirit stone that was at least 6,000 years old. "How is it?" Lin Muyu said lightly. "Can we hand over the order now?" It really is a 6,000 years old golden-scaled beast spirit stone. Su Gong was slightly shocked. Gong Sun sneered. "Who knows if the spirit stone of the golden-scaled beast was bought from the Imperial Chamber of Commerce? I heard that the relationship between Lin Muyu and Jin Xiaotang is very good. Maybe it was bought." "Even if it was bought, I have completed the mission." The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth rose. "But the two of you bullied my people. Shouldn't you repay something now?" "Repay what?" Gong Sun sneered. "Do you think you can fight 1 against 2? Why can't I?" Before he finished speaking, Lin Muyu had already moved. Demonic power quickly gathered on his left fist. With a roar, he punched towards Su Gong's abdomen. Su Gong didn't expect this kid to suddenly sneak attack. He hurriedly condensed chi armor to protect himself. But it was too late. He only gathered less than 30% of his strength and was hit by the 50% power of the second glory. The dignified Heavenly Realm Imperial Guard was directly blown away and fell into a pile of broken bricks. There was no more movement. Gong Sun was stunned. He hurriedly gathered his fighting energy into his long sword and attacked. Lin Muyu laughed wildly. She opened her left hand and the dragon scale wall appeared between her 5 fingers. It invisibly increased her defense. She forcibly grabbed the opponent's blade with one hand. She opened her right hand and used lightning to control the sword. The prairie fire sword stabbed toward Gong Sun's chest. Ping. The sword surged. It didn't break through Gong Sun's chi armor, but it had completely shattered his defensive aura. Her right hand condensed into a palm blade. She increased her fighting energy. The 30% power of the first glory went straight for Gong Sun's neck. Ping. The palm strike made Gong Sun lie on the ground. Both his palms fell to the ground and he also abandoned his sword. Lin Muyu raised her leg and kicked the back of his knee. She raised her palm and wrapped her flame fighting energy. She grabbed the cloak on his back and kicked in the direction of Wei Chou. She shouted, "Kneel." Just like that, Gong Sun knelt in front of Wei Chou with a humiliated expression. Chapter 134. Gong Sun knelt on the ground, his mind completely blank. Even though the first star of the 7 luminaries' profound energy was only struck out with 30% of his strength, it was still unbearable for him. He shook his head with all his might and only regained his senses after at least 10 seconds. When he raised his head to take a look, he realized that he was kneeling in front of Wei Chou and the other Imperial guards, and there was a foot on his back, making him unable to move. "Apologize." Lin Muyu's voice was very cold and she seemed to be suppressing her anger. Gong Sun clenched his teeth and struggled to stand up as he bellowed, "You want this daddy to apologize to Yingji's son? Only if I, Gong Sun, am dead. Stop dreaming. Kill me if you have the guts." Lin Muyu didn't say anything. She raised her hand and pulled out the prairie fire sword. She spat out her battle aura, and the blade was surrounded by raging flames. Just like that, she placed it on Gong Sun's neck. It was boiling hot, and in the blink of an eye, the skin on his neck was charred black. That kind of pain was naturally unbearable for an ordinary person. Even though Gong Sun was arrogant, he only had arrogance and no pride. He couldn't endure pain and he bellowed like a pig being slaughtered, "Lin Muyu, you bastard. What exactly do you want?" "Apologize to Wei Chou." Lin Muyu said indifferently, "Tell him that you are wrong." "Milord." Wei Chou looked at Gong Sun, who was kneeling in front of him, but he was still a little fearful. After all, Gong Sun's strength and bloodline were much higher than his. Furthermore, Gong Sun was the squad leader of the Imperial Guards, and his military rank was much higher than his. "Apologize." Lin Muyu continued to bellow, and the battle aura in her hand increased by 10%. Instantly, the flames on the prairie fire sword became even more intense. If this continued, Gong Sun wouldn't be able to last more than a minute. Enduring the intense pain, Gong Sun laid on the ground with both hands on the ground, and said word by word with a trembling voice, "Wei Chou, I am sorry. Gong Sun is wrong. I have let you down. I apologize to you right here." Hua. The flames on the burning prairie sword were extinguished. Lin Muyu raised her hand and sheathed the long sword. She removed the combat boots that were on Gong Sun's back and said coldly, "I hope you won't do it again in the future. Wei Chou is my Lin Muyu's subordinate. It's not your turn to discipline him, Gong Sun." Yes. Gong Sun was no longer as arrogant as before. He continued to kneel there and violently coughed a few times. Drops of blood splattered on the ground. In the corner, Su Gong, who was in the ruins, coughed as well. He stumbled and crawled as he stood up. His face was covered in blood. He was caught off guard and took the second element with 50% of its power. It was already considered pretty good that he didn't die. At this moment, the surrounding royal guards had fear written all over their faces. No one expected Lin Muyu to be so strong. He, Gong Sun, and Su Gong were also in the first heaven of the heaven realm, but he was able to subdue Gong Sun and Su Gong in 2 moves. No one knew how strong this kid was. In fact, the reason for such an outcome was very simple. The first reason was that Lin Muyu launched a surprise attack and caught the opponent off guard. The second reason was that the 7 luminaries' mystic energy was too vigorous and overbearing. Gong Sun and Su Gong's battle chi might not be inferior to Lin Muyu's, but in terms of martial arts they were much, much faster. Gong Sun and Su Gong's martial arts moves were at most a spirit-grade martial art, but Lin Muyu's 7 luminaries' mystic energy was rare in the world. Not to mention a profound grade or saint-grade martial art. Even if the 7 luminaries' mystic energy was listed as a divine grade martial art, it would still be a grievance. After all, the 7 luminaries' demon emperor relied on the 7 luminaries to kill hundreds of god realm and holy domain experts. This was something that Lin Muyu had witnessed with her own eyes. The tyrannical nature of the 7 luminaries' mystic energy was something that no one in the world could understand. "Wei Chou, let's go hand in the order?" Lin Muyu said with a slight smile. Wei Chou also revealed a smile, wiped the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth and said, "Yes, my lady." And so, Lin Muyu led the 10 royal guards to the central camp of the Eagle Nest camp. Actually, the battle outside was not more than 100 meters away from the central camp, but Meng Fong, as the commander, turned a blind eye to it. Lin Muyu was already used to it. In this world, the strong were revered. Meng Fong probably just wanted his subordinates to decide the winner and loser themselves. Even if someone was killed, he could just stand aside and not take any responsibility. Swoosh. She opened the curtain of the central camp. Inside, Commander Meng Fong was holding a wine jar and drinking. There were also 2 other royal guards of the same rank as Lin Muyu. "Are you done teaching him a lesson?" Meng Fong smiled slightly. "It seems that Gong Sun is not Lady Lin Muyu's match after all. Those who can escape from the Tower of Babel unscathed are not ordinary people after all." Lin Muyu walked forward expressionlessly, took out her bag of spirit stones, shook it and took out all the spirit stones, saying, "Commander, these are our gains from this trip. A 5,700-year-old bloodthirsty tiger fire spirit stone, a 4,200-year-old flaming ironback bear spirit stone, a 5,200-year-old stone spot wolf spirit stone, a 6,200-year-old golden scale beast light spirit stone, and a 4,800-year-old golden scale beast spirit stone. Please store them all in the warehouse." Meng Fong looked at the glowing spirit stones on the table, and his eyes couldn't help but brighten. He laughed heartily, saying, "General Lin, I really want to ask, how did you get so many spirit stones that are more than 5,000 years old? Logically speaking, even if you are an expert at the first level of the heavenly realm, but killing a 6,200-year-old golden scale beast shouldn't be that easy, right?" Lin Muyu pointed at his arm saying, "In order to kill this golden scale beast my arm was broken and Wei Chou and the others were also injured. The obtaining of these spirit stones isn't as easy as Commander thinks. So that's how it is." Meng Fong looked at him approvingly saying, "The Eagle Nest Camp has such a strong general like Lady Lin Muyu. It is our Eagle Nest Camp's blessing. I will say something from the bottom of my heart. If you hadn't come, we definitely wouldn't have been able to complete the mission before the winter sacrifice ceremony. Even if we sent out all the Eagle Guards, it wouldn't have been of any use." Lin Muyu smiled faintly and cupped his hands saying, "Since I joined the Eagle Nest Camp, then I am a member of the Eagle Nest Camp. The Eagle Nest Camp's honor and disgrace are already one with me, so I naturally won't neglect you." Meng Fong nodded with a smile. "You've worked hard. Please sit and have a cup of warm wine." "Thank you, Lord." Lin Muyu brushed his battle robe and sat down at a table at the side. An Imperial Guard immediately poured wine for him, while Wei Chou and a few other Imperial Guards stood behind him. In the distance, a 10-man squad leader of the Imperial Guards who was sitting opposite, pulled out a leg of a roasted rabbit in a copper cauldron, and chewed it without restraint, letting the oil and water drip onto his beard. As he chewed on the rabbit meat he said with a smile, "I heard that Lady Lin Muyu and the commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, and the commander of the Imperial Guards, Lord Qin Lei, are very close and even more favored by Her Highness Yin and Princess Xi. It is said that after you were exiled to the Tower of Babel, Her Highness Yin and Princess Xi pleaded for you in every possible way. With such an identity and status, why did Lady Lin Muyu take the initiative to apply to the Eagle Nest Camp?" He wiped his oily mouth and said with a smile, "If you applied to become a dragon guard it wouldn't be too much of a problem. Could it be that serving Her Highness Lin Muyu, the #1 beauty of the imperial capital, and the heir of the family, Her Highness Qin Yin, is not as good as staying with us uncouth Eagle Guards?" Lin Muyu frowned and did not know how to answer. After thinking for a long time she said, "Perhaps it is because I feel that my days in the Eagle Nest Camp will be more relaxing?" Meng Fong laughed. "Lady Lin Muyu is right. Our Eagle Nest Camp is the army that is the furthest away from Zetian Palace among the Imperial Guards. As the saying goes, the sky is high and the Emperor is far away, so there is no need for us to live in fear every day. Although patrolling and gathering information are quite dangerous, it is definitely Xiaoyao's freedom." Lin Muyu nodded. "Commander is right." Just as the bearded general was about to continue speaking, Meng Fong interrupted him saying, "Lord Xiahou, Lin Muyu has just returned from patrolling and she is already injured. Don't ask those nonsensical questions. If you really want to ask you can ask them later." Xiahou was startled and then cupped his fists saying, "Yes, Commander." Not long after, following Meng Fong's orders, Gong Sun and Su Gong also entered the tent. Gong Sun's neck was wrapped in thick bandages, and one of Su Gong's arms was drooping. It seemed that the violent impact had injured his arm. When he saw Gong Sun and Su Gong's appearance, Xiahou laughed loudly and said mockingly, "Oh, how did the two generals of the Divine Marquis residence end up in such a sorry state? Could it be that they met a divine domain expert like the fire cauldron Chu Chu? Otherwise, who would be able to beat Lord Gong Sun of the Eagle Nest Camp to such a state?" Gong Sun's face flushed red, saying, "Xiahou, drink your wine, don't talk nonsense." Xiahou laughed loudly. Lin Muyu glanced at him and thought that this Xiahou mouth was indeed too wicked. However, when she heard him ridicule Gong Sun and Su Gong, she actually felt a faint sense of satisfaction in her heart. This was the outcome of a vile person. After eating and drinking and filling their stomachs, they left the tent with Wei Chou and the others. "My lord, our camp is to the south of the Eagle Nest Camp." Wei Chou said respectfully. It's just a tent that was just set up today." Wei Chou added cautiously, afraid that Lin Muyu would be unhappy. After all, Lin Muyu was now the #1 hero of the Eagle Nest Camp. If he complained that the tent was too simple and crude, it would not look good for everyone. Fortunately, Lin Muyu did not care about this and said with a smile, "It's okay, it's fine as long as it can block the wind and rain." Yes. When they arrived at the camp, it was indeed very simple. The tent that Lin Muyu, the deputy commander of the Imperial Guards, was just a simple white tent. Although it could block the rain, it might not be able to block the wind. There was a simple bed inside, but it was actually just some hay padded on top. After entering the tent, Lin Muyu was speechless. Mother **Ker, the eagle nest camp was really too poor, so poor that it was a little exaggerated. My lord, are you satisfied? Wei Chou also could not stand it anymore. Lin Muyu's gaze fell on the outside. The tent of Wei Chou and the others was even more simple. It was just a straw hut leaning against a large tree at the peak of the mountain. The cold wind was blowing all around, and they would have an even more difficult night. Frowning, Lin Muyu said, "Everyone will make do for the night. Tomorrow come with me to the capital to purchase materials. We will build our own camp." "Yes, my lord." A trace of joy flashed across Wei Chou's face. Chapter 135. Lying on the soft bed, Lin Muyu saw a longhorn beetle gracefully crawling on the edge of her bed. She couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Eagle Nest Mountain's campsite was indeed natural. This place was too close to nature. Closing his eyes, he ignored the heavenly bowl and slowly activated the spirit meridian art. In this period of time, Lin Muyu had shifted the focus of her cultivation from the forging dragon bone remnant scroll to the spirit pulse technique. This was because the benefits of the spirit pulse technique were obvious. In the past, using the two luminaries' demonic dance once would drain her soul energy, but now using the second luminaries 3 times consecutively would not be a problem. After all, the 7 luminaries' dark force was her strongest killer move, so the spirit pulse technique was the foundation. Moreover, the spirit meridian technique had even saved his life in Sky Split Tower. Lei Hong had said that the creator of the spirit meridian technique was a madman, but now it seemed that the creator of the spirit meridian technique was simply a peerless genius. He slowly spread out his spirit sense. Even though he had closed his eyes, everything around him seemed clearer than when he had his eyes open. The heavenly bull was crawling along a grass branch, and above its head, a black spider was silently weaving a web. Winter had come too quickly this year, so much so that the animals were still too slow to go into hibernation. In fact, even after the snow on Eagle's Nest had melted, it was still green. Further away, a group of royal guards were drinking and chatting. Lin Muyu could easily recognize their voices. Among them were Gong Sun and Su Geng. Their tents were about 120 meters away from Lin Muyu, but the spirit pulse technique was able to hear their voices. It was amazing. "That little bastard, I must kill him." Gong Sun slammed his wine glass on the table. Su Geng said, "Lin Muyu's punch was too fast and there was a demonic power in it. My battle aura protection was useless against it. I don't know what's going on." Gong Sun replied, "Only the heavens know where he learned this crooked method from. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been subdued so easily. If this matter were to spread to the Divine Marquis residence, I'm afraid that the Divine Marquis would be disappointed in us." Su Geng smiled. "The Marquis has eyes and ears all over Lanyan City. I'm sure he knows by Dao. However, Brother Gong Sun, you don't have to worry. Lin Muyu has ruined the plans of the Marquis and the little Marquis. The Marquis will definitely not let Lin Muyu off so easily. We just have to wait for the Marquis to send even stronger people to make things difficult for that brat." Gong Sun's rage hadn't dissipated as he said, "If it's possible, I want to personally chop off that little bastard's head." "As you wish." When Lin Muyu heard this, she frowned. She continued to extend her spiritual sense outwards, but she could no longer hear the voices of people. 120 meters seemed to be the limit. Any further and the voices would become intermittent and indistinct. He could not hear them at all. The spirit meridian art rippled outwards layer by layer, causing his mind to be clear and his thoughts to be unprecedentedly clear. He cultivated all the way until midnight. A wave of tiredness hit him and he closed his eyes to sleep. The next morning when he woke up, he saw the Spirit Fire Division of the Eagle Nest camp making breakfast in the distance. Wei Chou respectfully said outside the tent, "Sir, the Eagle Nest camp's rule is that there will be an hour of training in the morning before breakfast is served." He got up, brushed his teeth and washed his face. There was no toothpaste in this world yet, so he used something called tooth powder. It was said to be made from the powder of a plant, but the effect was not much different from toothpaste. However, washing his face was a problem because there were no men's skincare products like L'Oreal in the mainland. Fortunately, Lin Muyu did not mind. Her skin was naturally good, so she did not seem to need those things. Zhang Wei and Wei Chou, who were uncouth, did not even bother to use tooth powder. They were very bold and their breath was fresh. After rinsing his mouth, he suddenly felt a shock. There seemed to be people behind the tent. He immediately unsheathed the prairie fire sword with a clang and silently approached. With a sudden leap, he arrived at the back of the tent, only to see a few royal guards in white robes standing guard. Moreover, this group of people seemed to have been here for a long time. Many of their shoulder armors were covered in a layer of frost. Brother Chu Huayin? Lin Muyu was stunned. One of these people was Chu Huayin, and each of them wore a golden dragon head emblem on their chest. That was the symbol of the dragon guards. Chu Huayin was also stunned. He smiled and said, You found us? Lin Muyu was confused. Why are you here? When did you come? We came late last night. I didn't know. Lin Muyu secretly regretted it. She must have slept so soundly that she did not even notice the arrival of Chu Huayin and his group with the Spirit Meridian art. There were a total of 10 dragon guards, including Chu Huayin. Lin Muyu asked, Brother Chu Huayin, this is the Eagle Nest camp. Why are you here? Shouldn't you be protecting His Majesty and Her Highness Yin at Zetian Palace? Chu Huayin brushed off the frost on his shoulders and smiled. Yesterday, Zhen Yifan attacked the royal guards and killed the deputy commander Rong Hanyuan. This is the first time he has provoked the royal guards, and there will definitely be a second time. Commander Qin Lei thinks that Zhen Yifan's next target is likely to be you, so he asked me to lead the 9 dragon guards to secretly protect you. I didn't expect you to still find out. Lin Muyu was grateful and terrified at the same time. She said, But it's too hard for you to stay here. Brother Chu Huayin, bring everyone back to Zetian Palace. I'm very safe here. There are 70 eagle guards from the Eagle Nest camp and hundreds of royal guards. It won't be easy for Xing Yifan to touch me. You don't have to make things difficult for me. Chu Huayin smiled and said, You know Qin Lei's temper. Once he has set his mind on something, he will definitely do it to the end. He has sent us to protect you until the day of the winter sacrifice ceremony. There are still 3 days left. Don't make things difficult for me, just let us follow you. All right then. Lin Muyu had a helpless look on her face. She could only accept this favor. She participated in the morning training. The Eagle Nest camp's morning training was very simple. She practiced riding, swordsmanship, saber skills and archery. After spending so many days in Lanyan City, although Lin Muyu's riding skills couldn't be said to be extraordinary, it was still considered first-rate. In terms of swordsmanship, her 4 elemental sword kinesis could be said to be the best, so she didn't need much training. Her saber skills were average, and as for archery, she still needed to learn it from Wei Chou. Tuck tuck tuck. The sound of horse hooves reverberated throughout the training grounds. Wei Chou was riding on a warhorse. He opened his palm and took out 3 arrows from his quiver. Pa pa pa. He shot 3 arrows consecutively, hitting 3 targets. This brat was not only good at fixed-point archery, but his mounted archery was also considered outstanding in the Eagle Nest camp. For a moment the onlookers all cheered. Even Chu Huayin raised his sword and cheered loudly. When it was Lin Muyu's turn, she charged forward on her warhorse. At the same time she raised her treasured carving bow and shot 1 arrow after another. You can't become fat in one bite. Buzz. She channeled her battle chi into the arrow, and in the next moment the arrow left the bowstring. Whoosh. The arrow didn't hit the target. Everyone laughed, but in the next moment, the arrow hit a large tree that was about half a meter in diameter. Peng! The large tree fell and everyone's whispers stopped. Although the accuracy wasn't high enough, the explosive power was top-notch. Commander Meng Fong had a look of helplessness on his face as he said, Lady Lin Muyu's archery skills are really eye-opening. Lin Muyu lowered her head and didn't say anything. This kind of thing was really too embarrassing. After breakfast it was time for the Eagle Nest camp's daily training. After lunch it was finally free time. Lin Muyu led Wei Chou and the other 10 royal guards and 30 royal guards down the mountain to purchase supplies. Chu Huayin and the other 10 dragon guards followed them from afar. The dragon guards had always been proud. They were a group of sacred existences that protected the emperor and the princess. But now they were actually protecting an eagle guard. This kind of thing was really amazing. As he watched the group go down the mountain, Commander Meng Fong shook his head and sighed. What kind of world is this? I don't understand it anymore. On the way down the mountain, Lin Muyu looked through her bag of spirit stones. She realized that apart from the spirit stones she had handed over, there were still some spirit stones left. There were 2 4,000-year-old stone-type spirit stones, 1 5,000-year-old fire-type spirit stone, and a 5,100-year-old thorn demon poison-type spirit stone. These spirit stones seemed to be able to be used to forge decent weapons. She then looked through her bag of money and saw that there were only 2 diamond coins left. He was really poor. This amount of money was not enough to purchase enough military supplies for the 110 soldiers under her command. She had to make a trip to the imperial business firm. After entering the imperial capital, it was still bustling as usual along the way. When they arrived at the imperial business firm, only Wei Chou was brought in. The rest of the people stood guard outside. Lin Muyu was wearing the Holy Temple's battle robe, while Wei Chou was wearing the Royal Guard's armor. They were very eye-catching. Fortunately, the supervisor on duty recognized Lin Muyu. He immediately came forward and smiled. Sir Linji, you are finally here. Are you looking for Miss Xiaotang? Yes. Also, don't call me Linji. Call me Lin Muyu. A few minutes later, Jean Xiaotang walked out of the inner hall with an excited expression. Seeing Lin Muyu was like seeing a business opportunity. She did not hide her excitement at all. She walked up and grabbed Lin Muyu's arm. She smiled and said, Sir Linji, you haven't come for a long time. Do you know that Xiaotang has been anxiously waiting for you? No, I should call you Sir Lin Muyu now. The imperial business firm was indeed omnipotent. Nothing could be hidden from them. Jean Xiaotang must have seen through everything about him. Lin Muyu nodded with a smile. Aren't I here now? As he said this, he felt that something was wrong. He felt that this kind of conversation was a bit like the conversation between a prostitute and the madam of a brothel in ancient times. He looked down and saw the excitement on Jean Xiaotang's beautiful face. He immediately felt a sense of guilt. If third fatty Jean knew that he was thinking of his daughter like this, he would definitely fight with his life. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.